This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop.
Got it.
Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All righty, and welcome to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show, Free for All Friday. Wow, I just watched something that I'm hoping that I can get you some audio for here in a second. It's stunning. It is stunning. These students are just, they're unbelievable. They want it all for free. Well, how are you going to pay for that? Well, you know, the rich people are going to pay for it. I'm sorry. Is that what they teach you in idiot school? Is that really what they teach you? At any rate, coming up later today, in just a little bit now, Governor Rick Snyder is going to join me here on the program, talking about guns and gun-free zones. Important announcement there you don't want to miss. Immigration, his push to bring more Syrian refugees and so forth to Michigan. And he'll talk about roads. Here is a quick preview of what he will talk about.
Roughly $600 million of new revenues coming in to make that investment. $600 million will eventually come because of growing the pie in our state, so it won't be at the expense of other programs. So this was striking a good balance between those. And again, everyone believed we needed to invest more in our roads that I've run across, and this is a good balance.
And there you have it. So the governor's going to talk about that. So have your phone ready. You're going to want it. Trust me. This is going to get you excited. You're all going to be wound up. And the hotline number is 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. And you're going to want this. So hold on one second. I need to get this to Alex because he needs this now. Because you need to hear what I just found. So I'm going to send that over to him. All right, he's got that. And let me, I'm overwhelmed with the ignorance that I hear coming forth from college campus. I mean, I know a lot of college kids are lacking in basic knowledge and skills, but a march yesterday really underscored the ignorance of so many. Gatherings at a smattering of college campuses across the nation, dubbed the Million Student March. They're demanding free college and a bunch of other things, but it only attracted a few hundred, and I'm being generous with that number. In Boston, for example, Boston, a pretty liberal hub, right? About 50 kids turned out demanding free college. Yep, 50. Now, I'm thinking if they can only muster a few hundred students at best around the country and then call it a Million Student March, I'm thinking we should be demanding some money back. In fact, I want every cent that any of these mental midgets were given by the taxpayers. I mean, basic math should still be a requirement for graduation. At least that's what I think. One poor college kid puts it this way: I want to graduate without debt. And I want a BMW. This is Ashley Allison, a 22-year-old student from Boston's Bunker Hill Community College. Community college has been kind to me, but if I want to go on, I have to take on debt. Yeah, Ashley, that's the way it works. But if the left has its bleeding heart set on making college free for everyone, I've got a better idea. I do have a better idea. Let's pay back every single person in the country that already has a college degree with interest. I think we should start with the oldest among us. You know, the people that went to college decades ago, worked their asses off, got a degree, and then worked their asses off again, creating businesses, offering new ideas to the rest of us, building this wonderful country. Let's not forget it was their hard work and, more importantly, their tax money that all these young snot-nosed kids think they are entitled to. So let's make college free, I agree, but let's start with the oldest debt first and then work our way back to where we are, to the snot-nosed, demanding, self-entitled little a-holes. Can I say that? Because I am really angry with these people that have grown into self-righteous, self-important, narcissistic pigs. I guess maybe after these brats pay their taxes for a few years, they can make some demands. As for the mentally ill, like Bernie Sanders, Well, let's just get him some medication for his delusional ideas. After all, the old Marxist has no idea how to pay for all of the free things he is offering to everyone under the sun. Sanders' Marxist utopia wish list will cost an estimated $2 trillion, and he has not one scrap of an idea how to come up with the money to cover the bill. Well, unless you actually consider rich people need to pay their fair share, which apparently they think that's a strategy. We keep hearing how college kids are going to rise up and demand change. Well, I've got news, kids. The old folks you are demanding pay your way and cover your bills have been working and living in the real world for a long time. Something, by the way, that would be quite helpful and beneficial to you. As a result, I think you'll be surprised when push comes to shove how well prepared the people are with callous on their hands. You will be shocked that your whining stories of hardship are met with cold stares and serious people who are no longer interested in hearing about how you are a victim. In the end, kids, be careful, because you're wishing for a revolution, and you might just get one. It won't be anything like you imagined, however, I'm sorry to say. Polite people and good people and hardworking people have just about had their fill of you. The anger is building and the blowback is coming. And kids, you have been warned. And if you don't believe this is what the kids are asking for, here is a defenseless young lady, a leader of the Million Moron March, on Neil Cavuto on Fox Business yesterday. Roll it.
Encourage government to get bigger. That's one way to do it. Make college really expensive and then forgive the debt if you work for Uncle Sam.
All right, let's get to the details of what really they're asking for here. Kelly Mullen, Million Student March national event organizer. Kelly, good to have you. Keely, I'm sorry. Is it Keely or Kelly?
That's okay. It's Keely.
I apologize. So what do you want here? What do you want?
So the movement, the Million Student March, is a movement for a more equitable and fair system of education, as opposed to the really corporate model that we have right now. So the three core demands of the National Day of Action are free public college, a cancellation of student debt, and a $15 an hour minimum wage for people who work on the campus.
And how's that going to be paid?
Great question. So I'm not sure if you're talking on like a national level or at particular schools. I can sort of touch on both. At my university, Northeastern University,
someone asked to pick up the tab. Who would that be?
The 1% of people in society that are hoarding the wealth and really sort of causing a catastrophe that students are facing. I mean, we have a relationship right now where 1% of the population owns more wealth than the 99% combined.
All right, so if the 1%, Kelly, if the 1% just had their taxes raised a few years ago back to almost 40%, then to pay for the health care law, they had them raised another few percentage points. Then they had their deductions limited to raise another couple points, where depending on the state or locality, they're pushing over about 50% in taxes. How much higher do you think? How much more do you think they should pay?
I think enough until we have a system where not 1 in 2 American families are threatened with poverty.
So where do they go? Let's say if you tax them, they're smart folks.
You get it, all right. Just keep taxing the rich. You know enough. The 1% that are hoarding and creating this catastrophe. Going to college in America is a catastrophe now. Yeah, go ahead, wish for a revolution, kids. You might just get one. Free for All Friday on the Steve Gruber Show.
Delivering Michigan common sense with a big dose of truth and honesty.
Hey, by the way, that conversation between Neil Cavuto and Keely Mullen, the girl who is intellectually defenseless, trying to say that we need to tax everybody. And then she's reaching out to the 85 billionaires of the world and so on and so forth. You can find it at the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page. I'm going to post the whole thing with Cavuto. Trust me, it's worth your time. You'll have marvelous. It'll be marvelous fun for you. Real quickly, let's go to Brian in Southern Michigan. Brian, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. This is what parents have done to kids in society. They've made their life so easy in life, fed them ice cream all the time whenever they want it, buy them a car when they're 16, always say they're special. So they become an adult, and they think that they should be a prince or a princess, and everybody should kiss their tail. I I raised my one kid differently. I put him in wrestling when he was 4, and he ended up being all-conference in football 2 years in a row. He ended up being all-state in wrestling, and he got a academic scholarship. I told him, you should have life hard when you're growing up, so life will be easy when you get older because you'll appreciate how hard life is.
That's right, Brian. I got to run. You'll appreciate when you earn something. That's correct. You notice the people that don't earn things that are given to them. You know the difference between a car that's given to somebody and a car that somebody actually worked their tail off to put in the driveway, and how they are treated. You know what I'm talking about. And talking about this entitlement mentality, let's continue that conversation with Christopher Harris, the Executive Director of Unhyphenated America. Christopher, welcome back.
How you doing, Steve? Good.
Doing good. And this entitlement, we're just listening to this woman, the Million Student March. I'm going to go with Million Moron March because it's absurd. They want free college, all college debt retired, and, of course, the $15 minimum wage, which has become a cornerstone of their mob mentality. Of course, go ask the people in Seattle how it worked for them. Go ask the people, the former employees of restaurants in Seattle, how that $15 an hour thing worked out for them.
Well, it just makes me think about that article. And I try to bring a little bit of humor into things that I talk about, Steve. The article I recently wrote was talking about a young man. I ran across this other article where some young man was brought to the White House, and he was touted. He was standing up there next to the President of the United States talking about the fact that he was a proud second-generation fast food worker. And here's the thing I'll point out, Steve. Listen, any man who gets up every day and goes to work, it is worthy to be respected, right? I mean, because especially in this world where it seems like there's this whole thing where people want they want something for nothing, a man who is willing to get up and go to work, I have to give a certain amount of respect for. The problem that I had with this was that you've been working, you're 36 years old, and he said, I work hard every day, I only make $8 an hour. And I just found myself thinking, how the heck are you only making $8 an hour after 20 years in the fast food business? Something about that just didn't seem right.
Didn't ring true, did it? Didn't ring true, did it? No.
Yeah, I'm just like, I can't imagine. And I gave a little bit of a first-person narrative in my article, Steve, where I talked about the fact that I showed up on the job when I applied for a fast food job. Now, this is 20 years ago, so, I'm 46. This young man's 30, I'm 42, rather. This young man is 36. And I showed up for my job with a shirt and tie when I applied, and they just said, you're hired. And the manager told me, because you showed up with a shirt and tie. He said, nobody shows up to apply for jobs at fast food places in a shirt and tie. Now, within a couple of weeks, a month or two, I was actually being offered a promotion. And it's just like, he's like, hey, the manager told me, hey, you show up to work on time, you do your job, you're responsible. And they were offering me promotions, and that was within a couple of months.
That's right.
I'm sitting there thinking, listen, these jobs were never created for people to raise a family on.
No, they were not.
So the argument that, they need to be paid a living wage, no. These are jobs for low-skilled workers so that you can learn certain things like being responsible, showing up to work on time.
I want to ask you something else.
That's what these jobs are created for. They're not created for 36-year-old men.
That's right.
Trying to raise a family.
Now, Christopher Harris, I want to ask you another question. Christopher Harris, the Executive Director of Unhyphenated America, which I greatly appreciate. It's a Teddy Roosevelt reference. But as I look at the demands being made by these, these narcissistic, self-important, self-entitled students across this country, one of the things that struck me is just reprehensible here this week is that the University of Missouri Army ROTC members were told not to wear their uniforms because these students were threatening veterans and ROTC members. I know your father was a veteran. I know that you come from a military family. How does that sit with you?
Well, here's an interesting side note. My family lives in Colorado Springs, which is the home of the Air Force Academy. And, in the state of Colorado, about, 80, 90 miles up the road is the University of Colorado. Now, Colorado, the Air Force Academy has a rivalry with Colorado State University. They play each other all the time. But they have not played the University of Colorado since, I think, 1974 or something like that. And the reason is the last time, at that point, the Air Force Academy came to play the University of Colorado, which is hippie central. I mean, every state has their, college that's just like the liberal bastion where all logic and reason goes to die. Well, University of Colorado is that for the state, and because there were violent protests against the Air Force Academy. Granted, it was right around the time of, the Vietnam War. But they have not played in 40 years. They have not played each other in state, right there, right across, right up the road, and they have not played each other in 40 years because of how the students, the leftists, hippie, basically the parents of these knuckleheads that you see at Mizzou. I mean, it's the same philosophy.
Right, and it's got to stop, Christopher. And I'm sorry, we don't have a lot of time today, but we need to come back and talk more about this because you have great perspective of being an Army brat yourself, and I appreciate the conversation. We'll do it again soon. Christopher Harris, thank you.
Hey, take care.
Executive Director of Unhyphenated America. He's got some great insights. We'll have more on the Steve Gruber Show.
Taking a closer look at the stories that affect you most with a big dose of common sense.
All right, Free for All Friday, my friends. Common Sense Hotline is 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. From Marquette to Monroe and all points in between. The great state of Michigan, our home, and we appreciate the support from the UP and all the way across all parts of Michigan. Coming up in just about a half an hour now, the governor will be here. Governor Rick Snyder will join me for a half-an-hour discussion on all things roads, Middle East refugees, and guns. You do not want to miss this conversation. You're going to hear something very surprising, I can assure you. Something big is coming in a half an hour here on the program. But something big right now, my good friend Jimmy Gretzinger is here. Speaking of guns and getting out and enjoying the outdoors, it's that time of the year. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
I am doing well. How are you, Mr. Gruber?
I'm doing great. That big, fierce wind came through, and, of course, I didn't enjoy any time in the woods. I'm guessing you hunkered down as well. Not much deer hunting to be done when it's 50-mile-an-hour winds, but what I did feel in the air was that nice, cold temperature that makes me think that, wow, it must be close to opening day for deer season, and, my friend, it is.
Yes, it is. And, funny, that wind was blowing so bad yesterday. We had one of our camera guys was in, Jordan Brown, our producer of the show, who actually lives there in the Lansing area, went out yesterday morning just to see what he could do, and ended up arrowing a nice buck yesterday morning. Of course, not on camera, but
gosh darn it, I hate when that happens.
I was able to get one yesterday, and I went down and watched the waves roll in on Lake Michigan. I live over in Grand Haven, and trying to get some footage of that, and it was like a summer day down there yesterday. You couldn't believe how many people were down there watching the storm come across.
Well, I saw so many pictures posted on Facebook and so forth. And the waves were big. It was a good show. Now, for people that, and I don't know who wouldn't know this, but Jimmy, you have been the host of Michigan Out of Doors for, how many years has it been now?
Well, I just finished my 17th year, so I'm working on number 18 now, and Michigan Out of Doors has been on the air since the early 1950s, and started by Morton F. years and years ago, and we're kind of a different breed in the outdoor world, as you kind of know with all your experience in outdoor TV, but we do 52 shows a year, so we're doing one every week, and there's plenty to cover in this state, so we keep busy, and we keep on the road, but it's a lot of fun.
It sure is. And now, and I know you used to live in the Lansing area yourself. Where do you call home? What's your home base of operation now?
I am based in Grand Haven, so I live over here on the west side of the state, and then Jenny, our co-host on the show, Jenny Olson, she lives over on the east side of the state near Goodrich, and then we got a couple guys kind of centrally located here in the Lower Peninsula, but, we travel all over the place. But, Grand Haven has been home now for 5 years, and I kind of grew up in West Michigan, so it's good to be back home, a lot of family over this way.
That's a good thing. So, all right, I have already seen, and for folks that don't realize I do outdoor television as well, and so Jimmy and I have kind of moved in those same circles for years. But I'm not here at the radio program. I'm out making television this time of the year, and being usually confused and confounded by whitetail bucks because they never do what I think they're going to do, and they often appear where they're not supposed to appear and don't appear where they are supposed to appear. They are the bane of my existence some days, I can assure you. But nevertheless, coming up here on Sunday, it is like a state holiday, and I thought that was the perfect time to have you here on the program. Where are you going to be? Where's Jenny going to be? How's it going to play out for you guys?
Well, November 15th is always a magical time of the year, and for, if you're not a big deer hunter, there'll be over 500,000 people hitting the woods for the firearm opener, and we tend to spread out to try to cover the state the best we can, and so I'm going to be camera in hand on opening day, covering a deer camp near Cadillac. Jenny's going to be over in the Thumb near Bad Axe. Then we'll have another guy in Mecosta County, which is kind of centrally located here in the Lower Peninsula. And then we've got a guy up in the northeast part of the state on some big tracts of private ground up there. So we'll have 4 cameras out. Every year it's different. I don't know the folks I'm going to be with. They're friends of a friend that just recently purchased 600 acres and a new deer camp not too far from Cadillac. And so, I think the thing that is, for me anyways, I know a lot of people love to chase big deer, and I do too, and it's always fun to put venison in the freezer. But for me, November the 15th is really about deer camp and getting together with, whether it's new friends, old friends, and just spending that time at deer camp around the fire and old stories that get better and better every year. And so for me, and for a lot of people that, travel north where the deer aren't and leave southern Michigan where the deer are, it's really about time with friends and family and getting away to deer camp.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And for those of you, if you ever run into me in deer camp, just remember, all my stories are true. All the stories are true. Just so there's no. Well, Jimmy, I just have my disclaimer there. Come on, now work with me. Any story I tell in deer camp is 100% God's honest truth. I'll tell you that. Now, you moved out of the Lansing area, but unfortunately for me, here a few weeks or months ago, we got word that chronic wasting disease had come to town, and I'm sure you've spent some time with that. And my small farm in the Lansing area is in one of the 9 townships in the epicenter, in ground zero, if you will. So for us, I don't know what to make of this whole CWD thing. I've seen those check stations. I've stopped by and looked at a couple of check stations, talked to folks there. My understanding, there's still just 3 deer that they found, which is good news. It's kind of an anomaly, they think, the biologists here. But it's going to change deer season for folks around Lansing because we have to go check the deer in. That's the law. There is no baiting whatsoever in certain areas around there. Some people said, well, I can bait because I'm not in the township. I think I would check the rules. I think places like Ingham County, 100% no baiting, my friends. So be careful. The fines are serious, and they have to be, because if it gets into the deer herd, it could be devastating, right?
Well, it's such a funny thing, the CWD, which is very different than the EHD. I mean, I feel like I'm getting a biology class every season because it's some new disease that hits the state.
Sure.
The EHD that we had is very swift, takes out deer in a region very quickly. CWD, though, on the other hand, Colorado has had chronic wasting disease for 40 years, and they're just now seeing a slight reduction in the population of the deer herd. And so, you got some biologists that are saying, hey, we got to wipe every deer out in this core zone. And then other folks are saying, well, let's just hold on because we're killing way more deer by doing that than this disease would ever kill.
That's correct.
So it's really kind of a, boy, what do you do? You can't just sit on your hands and just hope for the best. But it seems like, leading people in this, both in our state and outside of our state, are saying, hey, try to do similar to what we're doing. Try to do a small zone like that where you try to take out as many deer as possible. But again, we're killing way more deer than this disease really would, and it's once you have it, we're always going to have it, and so it's going to be something that we're going to be battling for a long time. But it's not, I don't want folks to think, oh, it's just a death sentence. My farm's never going to come back. I mean, some of these deer, they say it takes 3 to 5 years for it to show up in their system, and well, a lot of deer, as you know, don't live to be 3 to 5 years old, and so maybe we've had it for a long, long time, and we just have not.
And I'll be perfectly honest with you.
Right deer.
I would be tickled pink with a 4-year-old buck this year. So he doesn't have to live to be 5. I would be tickled pink if a 4-year-old buck wandered by my stand on Sunday. I'll tell you that.
Oh, I tell you. No, and really, here in the state of Michigan, you get a 2-year-old or 3-year-old deer, you're really doing pretty good.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. All right, Jimmy Gretzinger, the host of Michigan Out of Doors, can be found on PBS, not only in Michigan, but sometimes I see you in Canada as well as I'm traveling around because PBS gets picked up in north of the border as well. If people want to find out more about you or PBS or what's going on with Michigan Out of Doors, where do they go, Jimmy?
Well, you can always go to MichiganOutofDoorsTV.com, and we have full episodes of the show there every week. So if you're If you're traveling, or if you're at deer camp, or heck, if you're in the stand, or you're stuck in traffic, you can bring us up on your whatever device you got and watch full episodes of the show there. That's been a really nice thing for us. We have a lot of folks that are overseas, that are serving in the military, that are in Germany and different places, that love the fact we put online. They can stay connected with their home state. And again, we do 52 episodes a year, so we'd love to have you come in and travel along with us as we cover this great state from the far west end of the UP to the Detroit River and everywhere in between. And
all right, Jimmy, got to run, my friend.
Sports.
Keeping you in touch with Michigan and the world.
All right, welcome to it. 15 minutes till the governor will be here with us. Again, you don't want to miss this conversation. We'll be talking about roads and taxes. The fact that the people rejected the proposal back in May. We're talking about gun-free zones. Big announcement on that from the governor today coming up on how he intends to move forward on this guns everywhere bill that is making its way through the state legislature. News that you want to hear it. If you're a gun owner, it will affect you, potentially. All right, he'll also talk about Middle East refugees and his encouragement that Michigan can take more Syrian refugees, more Middle Eastern refugees, more people from that part of the world, encouraging it, in fact, saying it'll be a boom for Michigan, potentially. I wonder what our next guest might think about that. Joseph Castleberry, author of The New Pilgrims, How Immigrants Are Renewing America's Faith and Values, but he also says that Obama's trying to ram amnesty down our throat. Joseph, welcome to the program.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So, our governor telling us that we should take thousands of immigrants and make a home for them here because it'll be a big boom for Michigan, for jobs and the economy and everything else. Do you think he's on the right track?
Well, it's hard for me to say what is on the right track for Michigan specifically. In the situation we're in right now, there are certain areas of the country where immigration has been so thick that we're having a hard time maintaining a good assimilation environment. For example, Miami or the southern border. And as for Michigan as a whole, I mean, there are certainly cities in Michigan where it's already too many immigrants in that city. We need to spread it around a little bit. So I can't speak for the whole city of Michigan, but I think there are probably cities in Michigan that have had all they can, all that is good for us to have at this moment. But in general, and for the country as a whole, yes, we can take some of these refugees because we've got a population of 330 million, and we are the world's greatest assimilator of immigrants. There's no question about that. The United States has a 400-year record of being the most hospitable and perfect environment for immigrants in the world.
Sure, we take in more people than all the other countries in the world combined. We even do that now, but it is interesting to know because people bring this up on the program regularly, that between 1929 and 1965, there was effectively no immigration into the United States, and there are those today that think we should, turn off the spigot again. And with everything that's going on and all the debt that we have and all the debt we're piling up, I don't necessarily think that's a bad idea. Of course, if I say that, people will accuse me of being a racist and other silly comments, of course, right?
Well, people will accuse you of those kind of things, and then they won't be right because they accuse you. But there are a lot of things to consider, and as for the economic impact of immigrants, it tends to be strong. I mean, immigrants tend to create 1.2 jobs for every one job that they take in the country. In the whole, immigration is good for America. Immigrants tend to be 50% more likely to start new businesses than native-born Americans. And so they're a very strong factor in our economic growth. They're not just producers on the one hand, they're consumers on the other side, and they tend to be creators. people who are on the move, people who have left everything to come here, tend to have to be pretty creative in order to survive, in order to thrive and to achieve their goals here. Immigrants seem to be self-selected for success. They tend to do very well here. So, again, in the whole, immigration is a good thing for America, and immigrants are contributing really strongly to all kinds of positive things in our country. But yes, some of them are going to.
The problem is, though,
consume some social services along the way, and
a lot of it. And here's the other problem. Yeah. Here's the thing. I don't believe, and I will continue to say this. I've said it before. I don't believe we have a broken immigration system. I think we have a failure to enforce what we already have on the books. A gross and negligent failure by the leadership at several different levels, not just at the federal level, but at the state and with in sanctuary cities at the local level. In fact, we have a gross incompetence and a negligence and a failure to enforce laws that are already there. This is a nation of laws. We are, if we want this country to be this country 50 years from now or 100 years from now, we must follow the laws that we put there for good reason.
Steve, I totally agree that the rule of law is essential to America's future and to our present. We cannot be the country that we've been for the last 400 years without the rule of law here. That's what makes our system go. But the rule of law also requires us to have smart laws on the books. And our immigration law has not been smart. And we used to have a program that would allow temporary workers into our country who would come and then go. We don't have those laws anymore. And so we've got a real problem, for example, with agricultural workers. Last year, I live in the state of Washington, we have huge fruit and agricultural industries. Last year we had fruit rotting on the ground because we didn't have enough workers to harvest it. Native-born Americans won't show up to do those jobs unless we have a sufficient number of foreign workers coming to do those. We don't get the jobs done. 80% of all agricultural workers in the country are immigrants.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing.
We've got to get smart about this. What we're doing right now is just dumb.
We do have to get smart about it, Joseph. I got to run. I appreciate it. We do have to get smart about it. But I do believe there are people in this country already that would do a lot more of the jobs if they were available. It's supply and demand. Maybe the price goes up, but we would figure it out. All right, still to come at the top of the hour, Governor Rick Snyder will be here to talk about roads, taxes, Middle East refugees, and guns, how it might impact you in your concealed pistol license. Don't miss the conversation straight ahead on the Steve Gruber Show. It is Free for All Friday, and phone number is 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966, and we'd like to get you involved before the governor gets on the line here with us in just a few minutes. Matt on the line in Okemos on the hotline. Welcome to it.
Yeah, the minimum wage increase, about that, it's like I said, it's like a casino increasing their minimum bet. Less people will go in. The workers in the casino will lose. They might pretend like the volume will be the same. If the volume of the workers remain the same, that would be good, but it would bankrupt companies. So they'll downsize. It's pretty obvious to me.
Well, yeah.
What you need is growth. My father had good pensions and good health care because we had such growth back then that the value of the worker became more important to them to keep good workers, that they offered these health care plans, not government force.
Keep and attract good employees.
Growth would be it.
Yeah, keep and attract good employees. You got it, Matt. Thanks for checking in. I greatly appreciate it. The hotline number. Now, here's the thing. I'm not going to interrupt the governor while we have this conversation, of course. He's going to be here in just a few minutes. Governor Rick Snyder here. The things we're going to talk about, the new road bill that he signed. A lot of folks not happy about that, $1.2 billion, but it doesn't really take effect for another few years. We'll talk about that. The increase in taxes, despite the fact that people voted that down back in May. We'll talk about that with the governor. And I'm sure you'll hear a good defense of that. We'll talk about his call for more refugees from the Middle East and elsewhere to come to Michigan, primarily, though, Middle Eastern refugees to come here because he says it will stimulate Michigan's economy, create jobs and businesses, and be the kickstart that we need here. We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll talk about guns with the governor and gun-free zones. The governor's going to have a major announcement for you here. He's going to make a major announcement here on the program about the legislation that's coming up for the Guns Everywhere bill, as it's so called in the state legislature. It's moving its way through. You may recall the governor vetoed a bill back in December of 2012 after the Newtown shooting. But this legislation is different, crafted differently. But he'll have a major announcement about that coming straight up right here on the Free for All Friday edition of the Steve Gruber Show.